continue our lesson on lipoprotein and lipid metabolism. Okay, if you haven't watched my first video on lipids, just go to the page and watch the video. You will get to know how lipids are transported, and then how lipoproteins play a major role in lipid transport. Okay, and of course we also spoke about the concept of apolipoproteins. Okay, so we got to know the various types of apolipoproteins and the type of lipoproteins they are located with. Okay, so don't forget that we said that the lipoproteins have the inner core and the outermost layer, of which the inner core consists of the cholesterol, ester, and then triglyceride. But at the outermost layer, we said, consists of phospholipids, and we have some cholesterol there, and the phosphate group of the phospholipid, it makes the outer layer of the lipoprotein molecules soluble in water. Okay, that's what we see. Don't forget that I ended the other video on how lipids are transported. Okay, where we spoke about 3 pathways. So we spoke about the exogenous pathway. We also spoke about the endogenous pathway and the reverse pathway. Okay, it's very important. And so today we want to take our time and go through the various pathway one after the other. Okay, first, before we start, I want us to look at or note the following. Okay, I want us to take care of the following. So this ApoC2, apolipoprotein C2, I want us to know its function before we enter into the endogenous pathway. Okay, so the ApoC2 functions to stimulate lipoprotein lipase, which the last time I spoke about that. Okay, lipoprotein lipase is basically an enzyme, okay, which facilitates the breakdown of or the hydrolysis of triglyceride, okay, to glycerol and free fatty acids, so that the free fatty acid can be, taken by the tissues and some adipocytes in the body. Okay, so always remember that ApoC2 stimulates lipoprotein lipase. Okay, very, very important. ApoC2 stimulates lipoprotein lipase. So it means that in the presence of ApoC2, the lipoprotein lipase will be stimulated, will be activated, and performs its function. So it means if you lack ApoC2, if you are deficient in ApoC2, you can't stimulate or you can't activate lipoprotein lipase, and hence its role or its function will be inhibited. Take note of that. So another one that I'm going to talk about is the lipoprotein lipid Csf, of which we say it is an enzyme which is situated on capillary endothelial surfaces. Okay, it's an enzyme situated on capillary endothelial surfaces. Its function is that it breaks down triglyceride. Okay, it breaks down triglyceride so that we get glycerol and free fatty acid. Okay, once we begin the pathway, I'll mention some of these things. So if you know their functions, it will be very, very simple for you. So don't forget that lipoprotein lipase is an enzyme that breaks down triglyceride, okay, or triglyceride to glycerol and free fatty acid. The next one is EDCAT. EDCAT full meaning is lecithin cholesterol isotransferase. Lecithin cholesterol isotransferase. Okay, what it does is that it catalyzes the esterification of tissue-free cholesterol, okay, which is taken up by high density lipoprotein, HDL. So always remember that the EDCAT function to catalyze the esterification. When we say esterification, we mean that to esterify something, like to add ester to a certain product. Okay, so it is this enzyme that catalyzes the esterification of free cholesterol so that we get cholesterol ester. Okay, I'll talk about that. Always remember that. And then the ApoA1. Okay, ApoA1 function to be like the activator of EDCAT. Okay, it activates lecithin cholesterol esterase. It means that if you are deficient in ApoA1, you can activate lecithin cholesterol esterase. And if you can't activate lecithin cholesterol esterase, it means that you cannot esterify free cholesterol, okay, and cannot be taken up by HDL. Always remember that, because there are some disease conditions that we talk about, okay, of which individuals are genetically deficient in some of these proteins. So for now, always remember that EDCAT is activated by ApoA1. Cholesterol. Okay, so cholesterol ester transferase protein CEPT. It facilitates the transfer of esterified ester to lipoprotein. Okay, so always remember that. So when there is esterified ester, remember that it is the lecithin cholesterol ester transferase. It functions to esterify free cholesterol, and then after it has been esterified, okay, this enzyme also facilitates the transfer of this esterified, okay, cholesterol to lipoproteins. And some of these lipoproteins we talk about is Caromicon and then very low density lipoprotein. Okay, another one that we talk about is this man here called hepatic triglyceride lipase. Okay, so remember we have lipoprotein lipase. And I told you that the lipoprotein lipase, what it does is that it ensures the hydrolysis, the breakdown, okay, of triacylglycerol to free fatty acid and glycerol. Okay, but the hepatic triglyceride lipase found in the liver, okay, what it does is that it converts remaining intermediate density lipoprotein IDL in circulation to low density lipoprotein. And what it does also is to remove some triacylglycerol from the product. Okay, so remember the two, hepatic triglyceride lipase and lipoprotein lipase. This one converts the remaining amount of IDL in circulation to LDL, okay, and remove some triacylglyceride content from it. But whilst the lipoprotein lipase, what it does is that it ensures the hydrolysis, the breakdown of triacylglyceride to free fatty acid and glycerol. Okay, very, very important there. Okay, so once we know the basis and some functions of this enzyme, we can move on by looking at these pathways. Okay, the pathways are very important. So let's proceed by looking at the exogenous pathway. The exogenous pathway. Okay, now remember that for the exogenous pathway, okay, for the exogenous pathway, the main lipoprotein here, okay, is chyromicron. Take note of that. It's chyromicron. So always remember that when we are talking about the exogenous pathway, okay, the main lipoprotein here is chyromicron. And don't forget that in my first video or in the first lecture, I said that chyromicron is the main carrier of what? Dietary triglyceride. Okay, dietary triglyceride. So the main reason here, or the main purpose for the exogenous pathway is to be able to transport some triglycerides, some dietary triglyceride to tissues that stores cholesterol and some adipocytes. Okay, and so what happens here? So you see this chylomicron. Okay, once this chylomicron comes into circulation, so this region is the blood. Okay, so once the chylomicron comes into circulation, okay, chylomicron, there are some apolipoproteins. Okay, remember I told you that in the first video we spoke about some apolipoproteins which are found on the chylomicrons, of which we said some of them are ApoA1. I just spoke about ApoA1. So on the chylomicron we get ApoA1. Okay, ApoA1. Not only ApoA1, we also have other lipoproteins which can be found on chylomicron. Okay, apart from ApoA1, we can get the ApoB48, which is a structure protein. Okay, it is bound strictly to chylomicron. Okay, the structure protein for chylomicron. So always remember that. So we have the ApoB48 here, the structure protein for chylomicron, and of course chylomicron sometimes you can get ApoC and then ApoE. Okay, but the predominant apolipoprotein in chylomicron is ApoB48. Don't forget we can also have ApoA1 on chylomicron. Okay, so once in circulation, this is what happens. There is this, it's called HDL. Okay, HDL. Now HDL is our friend, is our friend. What it does is that it is in circulation. Okay, so once in circulation, there will be exchange between chylomicron and HDL, high density lipoprotein. It's a very good lipoprotein, because the process, it facilitates the breakdown of this triglyceride. Okay, yeah, it is a very good lipoprotein. What circulation, there will be exchange between the chylomicron and the high density lipoprotein HDL. Okay, so chylomicron will donate the ApoA1 on its surface, okay, to HDL. So chylomicron will first donate its ApoA1 to HDL, and in turn what the HDL will do is that it will also give back ApoC2 to chylomicron. Remember that chylomicron doesn't have enough ApoC2. In fact, the ApoC2 is predominant on HDL, and so chylomicron here also needs the ApoC2 to facilitate the activation of lipoprotein lipase. And so there will be exchange between chylomicron and HDL. So HDL will say, my friend, you don't have ApoC2, come on, you need it, give me ApoA1. I shouldn't be empty. So once this man agrees and gives the ApoA1 to the chylomicron, the HDL in turn also gives ApoC2 to chylomicron. Now once chylomicron receives the ApoC2, remember that in my introductory video, or in the introduction to this lecture, I spoke about the function of ApoC2, where I said it is what? It stimulates lipoprotein lipase. So once chylomicron receives ApoC2 from HDL, this ApoC2 will stimulate this enzyme, lipoprotein lipase, which is found, okay, on the capillary endothelial surfaces. Okay, so it is found on the capillary endothelial surfaces of the vessel, in the capillaries. So once there is ApoC2 here, this ApoC2 functions to stimulate lipoprotein lipase. Now what will lipoprotein lipase do? Now what it does is that it facilitates the breakdown of this triglyceride. Can you see it there? Triglyceride. Remember that triglyceride is found in the inner core of chyromicron, which is a lipoprotein. Remember that I said that the lipoprotein, they have inner core and then outer core. Okay, so triglyceride is found in the inner core of the lipoprotein. So once LPL, lipoprotein lipase, is activated, it breaks down this triglyceride. Okay, now this, when the triglyceride is broken down, we get what is called glycerol and free fatty acid. Always remember that. Okay, because triglyceride is about glycerol combined to fatty acid, but this is triglyceride, so 3 fatty acid. And so once it is broken down, we are going to get this fatty acid in circulation and the glycerol in circulation. Okay, now the free fatty acids are released into circulation to be extracted by organs. Some of these organs, we can get the liver. Okay, we can get the muscle, especially the muscle, and then the adipose tissues. Okay, these are the organs that, enjoy the free fatty acid. So you see the free fatty acid here, very important. You see that one. So this, once the triglyceride is broken down, okay, we're going to get glycerol and free fatty acid. Now some tissues need the free fatty acid, so this free fatty acid will enter the muscle, okay, sometimes the heart and the adipose tissue. So folks, you have to understand the process here. You know how important a high density lipoprotein HDL is playing here. Okay, it is not showing here, but always remember that HDL is in circulation. Once there is chyromicron, it appears. Hey my friend, you are welcome. You are welcome into my territory. I know that you want to release some of your triglyceride, but you don't have the man who will do that. So what happens is that if you like, give me apple A1, and I will give you apple C2. This man agrees, gives apple C2 to this fan HDL. Then what happens is that this HDL, okay, will give the apple C2 to chyromicron. Once chyromicron receives the apple C2, what it does is that it uses it to activate lipoprotein lipase, this wonderful enzyme. Now this wonderful enzyme comes into circulation, degrades or breaks down the triglyceride, and releases glycerol and free fatty acid. Of course, the free fatty acid shouldn't remain in circulation, so it is transported to some tissues like the muscles, the adipocytes, and the heart. Okay, very, very important. So once metabolism of triglyceride continues, okay, the inner core, remember that a chyromicron is where the triglyceride is located. So once the metabolism, the breakdown, the hydrolysis of this triglyceride continues, okay, what happens is that the inner core of the chyromicron particle is depleted. Okay, is depleted. So when it's depleted, structure integrity is maintained by shaping of excess surface component to form what is called a nascent HDL, and the nascent HDL is what is called a Caromicon Remnant. Caromicon Remnant. Always remember that once degradation of triglyceride increases, okay, the core of the chyromicron becomes depleted. Okay, so in order to maintain structure integrity, the shaping of excess surface component to form what is called Caromicon Remnant. Caromicon Remnant. Okay, very, very important. Now once there is a shaping of excess surface component to form Caromicon Remnant, okay, what happens is that the core is replaced with cholesterol ester. Okay, so you see the cholesterol ester here. See that? So once some of the surface component is shaping to form this Caromicon Remnant, okay, then the core of the triglyceride or the Caromicron particle is replaced by cholesterol ester. Okay, now where is the cholesterol ester coming from? So the cholesterol ester is derived from its own surface free cholesterol. You remember that we said that there are cholesterol situated on the surface of the caromicron. Remember that. So this cholesterol ester is obtained by the surface free cholesterol situated on the caromicron. Okay, but sometimes we also get it from tissue free cholesterol. Okay, tissue free cholesterol, and this tissue free cholesterol is taken up by the HDL. Okay, and then you know the cholesterol coming from the tissue, okay, is tissue free cholesterol. What it means is that it is not esterified cholesterol. There is no ester attached to it. So but before it will get into the core, okay, of the caromicron particle, it must be esterified. So which particle will esterify? There we go back to my introductory video where I said we have an enzyme we call the LCAT, lecithin cholesterol isotransferase. Okay, so this tissue free cholesterol is esterified by the lecithin cholesterol isotransferase. Okay, always remember that this lecithin cholesterol esterase requires ApoA1 as an activator. Okay, so once there is breakdown of this triglyceride, okay, the core will be depleted. So we need to replace it with some cholesterol ester and other stuff. This cholesterol ester, okay, is obtained from, some can be obtained from the free cholesterol on the surface of the caromicron particle, but most of the times we also get it from tissue free cholesterol, which is esterified by the lecithin cholesterol isotransferase. Okay, very important. Now once this cholesterol has been esterified, okay, the esterified cholesterol is then transferred to the caromicron. Okay, so you see it there, transferred to the caromicron. So what will ensure the transfer? Now it has been esterified. What will ensure the transfer, okay, into the caromicron? There we talk about the CEPT. Remember that cholesterol ester transfer protein. Okay, cholesterol ester transfer protein. So this cholesterol ester will be transported into the caromicron by cholesterol ester transfer protein. Very, very important. So when all this happens, okay, gradually all the ApoC2 and some of the ApoE are returned to HDL. So HDL will say that, okay, so my friend, you are done with your activity now. The cholesterol, the triglyceride that you lost, it has all been replaced. So my friend, I need my ApoC2 back, I need some of the ApoE back. So all of them will be transported to HDL. Okay, HDL, very, very important. So after the last of the ApoC2 has returned to HDL, the remaining particles are known as Caromicon Remnant. Okay, so after the last ApoC2 here has been transferred to the HDL in circulation, okay, the remaining particle that will be left here is what we call the Caromicon Remnant. Caromicon Remnant. So always remember that when we say Caromicon Remnant, it is when all the ApoC2 on caromicron has been transferred back to HDL, so that the remaining particle that will be left here, okay, is what is called a Caromicron Remnant. Okay, so Caromicron remnants are smaller and contain much less triglyceride and much more cholesterol ester than the original caromicron. Okay, so what we're talking about here is that the caromicron remnants, okay, they are smaller as compared to the original one, and the triglyceride content here is what? It's low. Remember that the original caromicron has about 90% content of cholesterol, but the caromicron remnant here has few cholesterol and has a greater amount of cholesterol ester than the caromicron. Okay, so of the apolipoproteins, only the B48 and ApoE remain, okay, on the caromicron. So ApoA1 will not be there, ApoC2 will be transferred to HDL. So ApoB, which is the structural protein on the chiromicron, will be the only apolipoprotein that will remain. Okay, now the chiromicron's remnant then moves to the liver and cleared by the hepatic remnant receptor. Okay, so this chiromicron remnant should be in circulation, move to the liver. Okay, so the liver will clear it by the hepatic remnant receptor, which recognizes and binds ApoE. Okay, so ApoE, don't forget that it is also found on chiromicron remnant. Okay, so chiromicron remnant should leave circulation. So how does it happen? Move to the liver, and the liver have receptor, and that receptor recognize the ApoE on the chiromicron remnant. So moves and transfer it from circulation. Okay, so it is very interesting if you understand this. Now what I want you to take from this slide is that always remember that in this exogenous pathway there are basically 4 things that play a major role here. 1 is chiromicron, 2 is lipoprotein lipase, 3 is HDL, 4 is ApoC2. Okay, and those enzymes, the EDCAT, lecithin, cholesterol, isotransferase, and SEPT. Okay, in that, if you have a lot of chiromicron in circulation, your HDL will increase. Hope you know that. So that when HDL increases, it means that activity of chiromicron will be promoted. Triglyceride will be broken down. Tissues will get a lot of cholesterol or free fatty acid. Okay, very, very important. And so sometimes when you see ADL in circulation, excess ADL in circulation, when a patient comes to your facility and there is a high amount of ADL in circulation, it doesn't always mean that there is a disease state. No, it's good. It's good, because this HDL is there to promote such activities. Because without HDL, you cannot even transport those fatty acids. Yes, without HDL, there will not be any ApoC2. Without HDL, you can't do the transportation. And so HDL is very good cholesterol, which we like it. Okay.